What you're about to listen to now is the first episode of our Patreon-exclusive bonus campaign, the classic Shadows of Yog-Sothoth for Call of Cthulhu, with Matthew Dawkins as our keeper. The original campaign was published way back in 1982 and was the first series of adventures released for Call of Cthulhu. This series is released bi-weekly, and 2 episodes have been released thus far over on our Patreon, which you can follow using the link in the show notes. By backing us on the $5 level, you won't just get to follow this series, but you can also binge our previous series, like Teroticum, Fallen Angels, the Judas Grail, and Atrocity Exhibition for Cult, as well as Emissary Lost for Coriolis. The support we're receiving over on Patreon is what keeps the show going, and we would be delighted if you would head over there and check it out. For now, please enjoy this first episode of Shadows of Yog-Sothoth.
Our game will begin, but probably not end, in the wonderful city of Boston, 1928. The month is January, the new year has only just been rung in, and it is a cool winter in Boston. There is still frost in the air. Indeed, the Great River is frozen and snow is falling. Boston is practically inaccessible from the outside, unless by train. It is a dreadfully inclement season. Compounding with that fact, of course, no one has booze to warm themselves up. Prohibition is in full swing, and this drives a lot of people to distraction. Sometimes they turn to their families and stand around the piano for entertainment. Other times they look in libraries and seek out stories that they haven't read in a long time or ever. Some of them commit themselves to academic pursuits and learn strange languages or even take up weird faiths. And then, of course, you have those who do trudge out into the knee-deep snow, desperate for a mouthful of moonshine because they cannot make it through another winter without some hard liquor lining their stomach. And our characters enter this scene. They will be in the city of Boston when this story begins. And let's start, I think, with Craig, if we could. Craig, could you tell us who you are playing in Shadows of Yog-Sothoth?
I shall be playing the young Danny Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, at age 25, I am certainly a young man in my prime in Boston. My parents, you see, were professors or scholars of the time. So therefore, I went to a good Boston school. I was given a very good education. Maybe I'm squandering it, though, because in my youth, I have decided not to become a scientist or a man of words, but a journalist. I want to write. I want people to know things. I love stories, and I love sharing them with others. And I believe, especially in the 1920s, the world is full of things that need to be known. Danny wants to be part of that, and he is. He's working for a newspaper. He has a camera, his own camera, which again comes from the family and the money, because of course a camera's quite expensive at this point in time. Big, nice, bulky one with that classic flash bulb, but modern, very modern. Although he's not that very good at actual photography, but I argue, he doesn't think of it as an art form, really. It's the stories that are important. And that's what he does. He works for a paper. His father maybe not quite approving, but, well, his father's an aging old man. What's he going to do? And his mother doesn't have a say because she's long dead. He died when he was a young boy from a terrible illness, possibly of the mind, which just meant she got taken away somewhere and died, because that's how it goes.
At least she had nice padded walls to keep her comfortable.
She did. Not that I would know much about it. I was only 6 or 7. I was interested, but my father doesn't like to talk about it.
No, we can establish for you, Danny Sullivan, that you write for the Boston Globe, a reputable paper. Though you're hardly on the front page desk yet. You're still writing columns and bylines. But you have aspirations. You're going to make a big story one day and see your name in print. In a big way, a meaningful way. Maybe it will come via this campaign. But before you go chasing down leads, let's find out a little about Matthias's character.
Indeed, I am playing Lewis Moore, who is in his early 30s, and he is a police officer. He is originally from Baltimore, but he now finds himself in Boston, and that is because, well, he doesn't have anything in Baltimore anymore. His wife and child perished in it was a house fire. Lewis is convinced that this was not an accident, that this was actually arson. And it was perhaps connected with one of the many perps that he had busted over the years. And he is in Boston because there's been a spate of arsons there. And he thinks that maybe the same person who did his family in is the one who is doing these arsons in Boston. Whether that's true or not, we don't actually know, but I guess we will find out.
Yeah, you are a plainclothes police officer, as they might be called these days, a detective. You do have a partner who we will be introduced to, as well as, of course, a deputy chief and all the rest of the members of the men in blue in the streets of Boston. We will see if we can track down the arsonist responsible for your family's burning, and indeed whether it's the same person or if it's paranoia and obsession that drives you to these straits, having left one city and joined the police force of another. But before we do that, Hjalmar, who are you playing?
I am playing Edgar Roy Eagling, more commonly known as in the fancy clubs and places I frequent as Odysseus. That's my persona name, and I am a dandy. I struggle with people because people are very strange, and I'm a character who has had trouble fitting into society, and I hate the idea of work, and I hate the idea of studying and anything that putting effort into that's just absurd to me. So I have somehow developed a character to make the most of what this life could possibly have to offer. It started out as I was a child, and this fancy dressed woman was swooping by down the street in an amazing looking car, and she dropped a colourful feather that I found. And I started treasuring this feather, and I started making up ideas of who I could be with this, putting it in my hair, and I started strutting around the house, acting out flamboyant, fun characters, which my parents didn't really appreciate, because they believed in hard, normal, rigorous work, and my dad eventually caught hold of this feather and threw it away. But my grandmother, who had a soft spot for me, she dug it out of the trash where she found it, and she found me crying in my room, and she gave it back to me, and then it became our little secret. And together we played these games where I would be this flamboyant kind of non-gender character. I would go on all sorts of adventures together. She and I became very close in the town of what's it called again?
Would this be Randolph?
Randolph it was, yes, indeed. Randolph, that's where I'm from. Eventually I moved into the city, and this character just kept on growing. I made some friends as myself, but I didn't really tell them of this character. But I moved into a room, the only thing I could afford at that time, trying to do a little bit of work. I had a short stint in the military, which ended up with me essentially shooting myself in the foot, quite literally. I enjoyed shooting the rifles, but I was a bit clumsy, and I was dismissed. And luckily for me, perhaps, I ended up here in Boston in a little room where the floorboards were creaking and annoying me, and one day I decided to bend one up because I noticed it was already half on its way up, the nails coming out of itself, and in there I found a big bag, several bags of money, and this somehow this scared me at first. Like, whose is this money? And they were quite old looking, but not outdated, and it took me a few years before I started to dare actually use them. And so I did. And I now have made myself a name as this character. I go in frequent places, I make superficial friends, I try not to stay too long in any social kind of setting, because I'm afraid of being found out, of being the dull son of a mechanic that I am. And then I spend a lot of time just being by myself. Sometimes I'm spending time with a friend of mine. She studies at the university, and she teaches me all sorts of things. I seem to have a very good memory for remembering stuff, and I'm good at charming people, at fast-talking people, and I also like taking things from people. If I see something valuable, I like to trick them, take them, and maybe take it to a pawn shop, and that's the only way I know how to make money in this world, except using the ones that I found.
Well, it is on one such day, when you're still pouring through some of this cash that you've been steadily burning your way through, Edgar, that there comes a knock at the door of your apartment. I mean, you could well afford to move somewhere more expensive since you've essentially looted the place of everything of value. But, like you said, you form attachments to objects of significance, sometimes people that feel significant to you, and as much as this is simple rented flats in not exactly the best part of Boston, this is your rented flat. This is where you found your money and, through it, a form of independence. Finally, from a rather overbearing pair of parents. And so there is a second knock on the door. You're going to have to take your eyes away from this bundle, tuck it away. Could be the landlord. It's not like you're behind on your rent. You're not expecting anyone. And it is the evening.
Yeah, regrettably do that. I put things down and I make sure that the carpet is covering it well, and I go over to the door a bit tired on this particular evening. Yeah, who's there?
Odysseus, you coming out? You coming out to play? Don't say you've forgotten. You recognise her voice immediately. One of your lady friends, Lois Wilde. Landon and I are out here. We're not leaving without you, and we'll wake up all your neighbours if you're not coming to join us.
I am a bit taken aback because normally I'm used to having an invitation beforehand and knowing that I'm going to go out and then preparing something particular for that night. And I'm a bit behind on stuff, so I'm going to try and excuse myself and find out where they're going, and maybe that'll buy me some time.
Come on, Odie, we got a great new place to be. Just found it earlier today. You gotta check it out with us. It's mind-blowing. Come on, open the door. We know you're in there.
Yeah, I just came out of the shower.
Well, great. That means you're ready.
Yeah, well, just give me some time to dress. Maybe I could just meet you close to the place. Where are we going?
Why don't you let us in and we'll help you get dressed if you've been on a bender.
I scratch my forehead. I don't particularly like having people here. This is my little sacred haven. I mean, no, I'm sure. You don't want to see me like this. I'm gonna get ready. You know, gotta give me a few minutes, okay?
You hear Lois sigh very loudly. I'm going to sing. I'm going to sing until you come out, and you will receive complaints, because you know my singing ain't for shit. Just throw on a pair of pants and a shirt, for Christ's sake.
I start panicking, running around a bit in the apartment, finding a pair of trousers that I'd flung over an armchair. Well, about the only armchair in the place. There's not many places to sit. This is not a place to entertain people. I don't really remember telling them that I live here. I fling the pants on and I go to... Yeah. And I unclasp the chain and... You
can hear her start singing, Odie, Odie. What rhymes with Odie? Bogey? He's yeah. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, can you just pipe it down a bit? Just give me a few minutes, okay? You can come in if you have to.
Finally, do you have anything to drink in here? They step over the threshold and look around with wrinkled noses. Wow, so this is where you live, huh? Who are you hiding out from?
This is not... How did you... Yeah, I got something. And I start digging through one of my bags where I think I've hidden away a little bit of moonshine. Feeling a little bit of sweat running down my back. This is...
Jesus, if we knew you were on the lam, we wouldn't have made such a noise.
No, this place here... come on, it's just, it's a temporary thing. They, you see, they were changing the floors. And I thought I'd just take something that was easy to get in my actual...
Stop hassling him. Landon, look. I know what it's like. Lois looks at you. She gives you a smile and a wink. Sometimes you gotta stay down low.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I'm staying down low and yeah, come in. I try to find some glasses that aren't too dirty and put the bottle out. It's nothing special. Just, you know, for emergency situations like this.
Oh, hell, if it's real liquor, I mean, it's special enough. I've been thinking I'm drinking antifreeze.
Don't say the word, man. And don't get smoked, okay? Just have a sip.
Nice. From Canada?
Yeah, how'd you know?
You develop a taste for these things, you know? You got a smoke? It's alright, I got my own.
Yeah, just out of them. But, could use one, though. I'm, good for my stress, my nerves, if you got a spare.
Lois lights up her own and then lights another and passes it to you. Saying that it's good for clearing your lungs. Not so sure about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what it does. Good for the heart as well. And I start buttoning a shirt. And good for most things. So what's this place you've been talking about then?
Oh yeah, I got an invitation. Landon sits back, glass in one hand, cigarette in the other. He's dressed to the nines, although he's already a little rumpled. Clearly he's hit a drinking establishment or two on the way here. Then again, so has Lois. So they both look a little four sheets to the wind, as they say. I got an invite, didn't think nothing of it, not that long ago. Place, you know, like the Freemasons. You a Freemason, Odie?
Oh yeah. That's
so you know all the secret handshakes on the square, all the dancing.
Oh yeah. I go over and I hold my hand out to him, trying to see if I can just pull a fast one on him.
I mean, you do without needing a roll, because he isn't a Freemason and he's already drunk. I'm not a Freemason. He slaps your hand away in the end. So I don't know what you're trying to do to me there, but maybe you should get me another drink first.
I feel a bit, just realizing that they are a bit suzzled already. I just feel a bit relaxed myself, and I start to, okay, they're not going to pay too much attention to this place, and they're going to buy most of the things I say. It's going to be fine. I don't actually, I'm not a rich person, and I don't spend things lavishly. I kind of tend to stick to one suit, a particular kind of pastel green suit that stands out just enough, and that I can put anything in to make me seem a little bit, you know, worthy of attention. That's what I like to do. I add feathers, maybe something else that glimmers a brooch. Sometimes I go to a pawn shop, buy something cheap, use it for a night, and then go sell it back again. And I have a few things that I might not have used yet. So I start rummaging through them as I try to pour the drinks, and at the same time I want to add a little bit of makeup to my face as well. So I'm trying to juggle all these things as I'm entertaining my guests.
Anyway, they call this place the Order of the Silver Twilight.
Order of the Silver Twilight.
Yeah, I know, but That's not all. They call it the Hermetic Order, excuse me, of the Order Twilight. Anyway, I got an invitation, I think because of Daddy's money and status in the city. They want new members. They're looking for people to join their excuse me, their drinking club.
Well, you know, now that you mention it, Order of the Silver Twilight, I think I heard of this. I think I probably have an invitation myself somewhere around here, and I just idly ruffle some papers.
If you do or if you don't, that's fine, because I get a +1. If they invite someone, that person can invite one other person. So
yeah,
they
of course.
bulk up their numbers. So,
yeah.
My question is, you want to come with? It's a new place. It's a good house in a lodge in Cambridge. Not too far. We can get a cab. The roads are pretty clear tonight. Meet some movers and shakers about town. Drink some real drink, you know.
It sounds nice. Sounds worthy of my attention. But you know, I have a couple of places that I've been invited to. If it's with the two of you, maybe that just tips the scale in your favor.
Lois smiles at you. I knew you could be convinced, Edgar. Sorry, Odie.
yeah. I'm thinking to myself, did I let that slip at some point? Yeah, they know too much about me. Too much for comfort. Yeah. Odysseus, please.
Well, you know, sometimes that's a bit of a mouthful.
I know, but it's who I am. It's me.
Yeah, well, you know what they say, more than a mouthful's a waste, Odysseus.
That's it. That's it. All right, so once I look down on myself, quite happy at what I've put together just this quick minute, I'll go to this place, I guess.
You want some papers? I mean, you know, something, a bank statement or whatever to prove your income. They don't just take in the paws from the street.
Yeah, no, of course.
Do you got something lying around?
Yeah, I always do. I look around. What could I have used for this last type of occasion that I had? Or
I mean, the fact is you don't. Everything you've got is in cash, and this is how you've been able to sustain such a lavish and quick lifestyle. You haven't needed to trust the banks, and you've certainly not invested any of it, or set up a company with it, or anything like that. It's a bag of, several bags of cash that you have been depleting, and thankfully they have been deep bags. But, yeah, to your name, you are... Well, you're not somebody. You're somebody when you get in a place and you start buying drinks and you can buy a hit off of something and you can tip a waitress or a dancer or something like that in a lavish way, and people look at you and they think, wow, this Odysseus, he knows his way around Boston. He knows his way around dollars. He must be from old money. But, yeah, on paper, you're just any old schlub in the city of Boston.
Yeah, I hate thinking about that. So, what I either do is I had something pulled that's fake, but the more safe method to do it is to just get alongside of people, going in with someone that already is proven well enough, and just sort of slide in on just along and making sure, that they find my act convincing. So I think in this case, I'd either just try and get with Landon in. I start looking some things over and like, no, it seems like I left them at the last party I was at, down at Yvonne's. Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember her.
Must have left something lying around. Maybe I could just come in alongside of you. It should be fine, shouldn't it? Yeah.
Landon looks at Lois. Lois looks at Landon. Landon cocks his head to the side a little, makes a gesture, an expression with his face as if to say, "Do you think we can?" She gives a soft shake of her head, closing her eyes. A no. He looks back at you. He stands up. Doesn't finish his drink. Well, I think we're going to have to call it there then, Odysseus. Maybe when you find your paperwork you can swing on by, but listen, I don't mean this as an insult. I promise I don't mean it as an insult. I love you. You're a good guy. You always get your drinks in. You're a lot of fun. But this is a new group. I don't want to be shown up or nothing, you know. I'm sorry for bothering you. I think I just I made a mistake. It's okay. It's my fault, says Lois. I thought you'd be a good person to bring along, and I'm sure you will be. Just go to the bank tomorrow. Get them to print out. Get them to type up a statement.
Yeah, I'll do that for the next time. I was invited to the Union Oyster House tonight anyway, so...
Oh, wonderful. Well, you have a good time with those oysters, and we'll have a good time with our Silver Twilight, and maybe you come to one of ours tomorrow or the day after, and we'll catch each other up on what we got up to.
I'll find out all about it, I'm sure. Yeah, it sounds like a good plan. You have fun with the Freemason fellas.
Okay, come on, Landon. All right, you take care, Odysseus. You know, we'll see you on the other side, huh?
Yeah. On the other side. And
thank you for the drink.
Yeah. I stand there and I try to keep the mask up for a bit. I feel already exhausted about this. From this social engagement, just having people show up at my actual place, coming in like this, and I know how well off they are, and usually it's just you're out and about and you do things. They must have helped me home at some night that I actually got a bit too sozzled.
That's almost certainly it. Now that you're piecing it together, there have been a few occasions where you have got blackout drunk. You're not proud of them. But there are fragments there. Sometimes you know that you've drank too much at one establishment and you've woken up back in this place. Someone would have had to have helped you.
Yeah. Well, I didn't really want to go out today anyway. Order up the Silver Twilight. Could have made a... Yeah, well, I'm gonna research this, and I'm gonna schmooze my way in. I work slow sometimes, but you gotta be methodical about these things. I don't like being too spontaneous. If I don't have to order up the Silver Twilight, I make a note of this, and then thinking I'm gonna ask around a bit, just see who else is connected to the place.
Very good. It's 2 weeks later. 2 weeks have passed. We are now in the thick of January. The snow has not abated. The ice still hangs in icicles across the overhangs of every store and every house. The roads and pavements are still slippery. There's very little traffic passing in and out of the city under these conditions. But you've been keeping... well, somewhat busy. It's difficult. You're often pulled from pillar to post to this social engagement or that, or your family's trying to get in touch with you, and that's when the ruse drops and you have to go home and you have to suddenly start playing the good son. In all that time, you never heard from Lois and Landon. And so during that time, you did as they invited you to swing by Landon's place. There was no sign of him there. The place was shut up. He has a housekeeper. She wouldn't let you in. She said Mr. Landon's away. And, He never got in touch. You went to Lois's. She still lives with her family. They looked at you with death stares as if, what have you done with our daughter? Where have you whisked her away to? And when it became clear that you were just as concerned or interested as to Lois Wilde's location, they looked concerned before telling you, well, I'm afraid this is really none of your business, and closing the door. And so, your investigations, your interests, take you back to what you were saying, the Order of the Silver Twilight. You were going to look into them, weren't you? You were going to ask around who has connections to this group. Do you know any other members of this group? And it's the funniest thing. You weren't able to find a single report of them. You looked in the lifestyle and society pages, where often these sort of gentlemen's clubs, veterans clubs, secret or semi-secret societies like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians are occasionally present. No. No, all you have on them is what Landon and Lois told you, which is they're in a nice house, a lodge, in Cambridge, which is a pretty big area to go knocking door to door. And so by the time 2 weeks have passed, maybe you are starting to feel a real concern. Maybe that takes you all the way to the cops. See if they found a body. See if someone's reported one of your friends missing. And so, as you step through the doors of the South Precinct on this cold January morning, and the kind receptionist, seeing you're freezing, offers you a coffee and asks what you're there for. She quickly picks up her phone, buzzes through to one of the officers out back. Detective Moore?
I pick up the phone. Yeah?
I've got a man here says he's got a missing persons case he wants to report. He looks very cold.
All right, I'll be right there. I put the cigarette back in my mouth and I start heading out into the main office then to see what this is all about. Missing persons case.
Since your arrival in Boston, you've found nothing but obstructions on the case that you've been actually interested in, the spate of arsons. It doesn't help that they appear to have died down during the winter months. And so, of course, as the press moves on to different cases, as do the police, and your chief is always quick to assign you another homicide, or indeed occasionally kidnappings, missing people, mysterious thefts. You're a detective, and this is before a period where you would have a specific department. So there's all kinds of cases that you're assigned to, and frustratingly, very rarely the one you want, which just sits ironically cold for a case about burnings and people who have died in residential crematoria. Nevertheless, a case is a case, and you do your job. And so, yeah, you pass through to the front of the police station, where you do see the shivering Edgar Roy Eagling.
And having noticed then that he is the person who is coming to us with this case, I'll just move up to him and offer up my hand and say, Detective Moore, and you are?
Yeah, and now as I'm in a normal, mundane circumstance, I haven't bothered dressing up at all. You see me in what standard plain brown and beige and grey, like trousers and a little vest and a shirt. The coat is nowhere near enough thick for the weather, and if you're sharp-eyed, you might notice some remains of cosmetics on my face as well. But aside from that, I could just be anyone off the street at this point. I'm Edgar.
And the man you see before you, he's in his early 30s, wearing a brown suede jacket with a matching fedora to go with it. And got a bit of stubble. And then, this cigarette's in my mouth. I always have a cigarette in my mouth. It keeps me calm, you know. Why don't you come into my office?
And I follow you into the in through the office doors.
The receptionist gives you a wave as you go.
I give a little wink to the side.
Eddie Flaherty, your partner, stands up upon seeing Edgar. Detective Flaherty, at your service, sir.
I'm Edgar. Edgar Roy Eagling.
Eagling, that's a good name.
Thanks.
I thought so too, Eddie. So, have a seat. Tell us about this missing persons case, and let's see what we can do to help you find the people who are missing.
Cigarette?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask. Thanks.
Coffee?
Oh, yeah.
I'll be back in a moment then. You two get started.
Thanks, Eddie.
Right. I kind of hug my coat close to me, even in here.
Yeah, the office isn't warm. This is a thin-walled, thin-glassed as well office. You can see everything going around in the station. There's no privacy afforded to anyone here. About the only thing you can tell is that while there are some holding cells visible, there is no one in them right now. Clearly, even criminals know better than to go out in this weather.
Yeah, it's terrible. And still by reflex, I've taken my cap off because we're inside. And I hold it in my hands. I got two friends. 2 weeks ago, they came by and invited me over to a party. I couldn't go at the point, and haven't heard of them since. We were gonna meet up the following days, and I can't seem to find them again.
I'm taking notes of all this as you are talking.
Eddie Flaherty bustles back in, puts a black coffee in your hands, Edgar. I don't add cream, not on a cold day like this. I find that it doesn't take the edge off so well.
I myself would have preferred cream, but I don't say anything. Yeah. It's
Now, what did I miss, then?
So their names are Landon and Lois.
Got any last names on that?
And do I have their last names?
Yeah, you would know their last names. It's Landon Carstairs and Lois Wilde.
Landon Carstairs and Lois Wilde. They're both pretty well off, good connected families.
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking to the families and quite roughly been told to, make myself less present. It seems like they say it's family business or something, and but that's not like them. I mean, they're not kids. We all adults. We can handle ourselves, and so now I'm wondering what they gone off to. Have you heard anything? Do you know the names?
Lewis, I'm sure if these are connected families, Eddie stretches in his chair. The chief will take interest, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if they hired some kind of private assistance, if they're actually missing. That's the thing. They would normally just show up and we'd, talk about things.
You sure they're not just ghosting you?
Yeah. And then I'll... despite how I look, I happen to be quite the presence in some of these circumstances. People want to get back to me.
We ain't saying nothing different, Mr. Eagling, at all, are we, Lewis?
No, absolutely not. No, certainly not. But it is something to consider, right? It could simply be that they don't want to be found.
Or not by you, anyway.
Exactly.
If they don't want to be found by me, I don't think they want to be found by anyone, right? Because I've been asking around, and I've heard nothing. I've heard that people have heard nothing. People, you know, I don't know how many else are looking for them, but we were good friends. They were inviting me to this place, like I said. I don't know why they would, you know, after one night decide not to.
You've got quite an opinion of yourself, haven't you, Mr. Eagling?
Yeah, I do, and rightfully so. I'm doing fine, you know. Yeah.
Confidence is a good quality.
Oh, it is. I mean, you'd make a damn fine police officer. We all think a lot of ourselves, don't we, Lewis?
We certainly do. At least some of us.
I'm not sure if that's a joke or not, so I'm kind of flickering my eyes between them, but I try to keep up a facade of, carrying myself well.
What was the name of this place?
The name of the place, it was called Order of the Silver Twilight. Something connected to the Freemasons or such.
Oh, I see.
I'll look to Detective Flaherty. You heard anything about something like that? It sounds like one of these groups that are into weird stuff, right?
Yeah, that's right. He looks back to Edgar. Usually what you find with these groups, Mr. Eagling, is they like to conduct seances, especially when it comes to relatives who died in the Great War or the flu, you know? These groups spring up, they do all kinds of spooky nonsense and have, if I can be candid, a few drinks under the table.
Well, we're not into that. I mean, we don't do that.
Well, I'm sure no one does. But nevertheless, Order of the Silver Twilight. And do you have an address for this order?
Well, it's supposed to be up in Cambridge. Some nice lodge there. I didn't get the exact address. I was gonna meet them later, but things didn't add up on the night. So
I see.
It's kind of a big place to search. Just I was wondering, and I mean, I was thinking that surely you must have, if they were actually missed, and you would have already received something from the family.
Well, if they were, we wouldn't really be able to tell you unless it was, well, here's the thing, if you don't mind my saying so, Lewis.
Oh, go ahead.
These two bright young things, they don't sound too much like they're not children. You mentioned they're grown-up adults.
Well, yeah.
We don't tend to go off on a tear looking for young, well-to-do adults who go missing unless family report it. I mean, if I'm quite honest with you, Mr. Eagling, what you were very keen to tell us could not have possibly been the case, that you've been frozen out of their lives, they've decided to go to parties and not invite you, that you're no longer a part of the set, as it were, is by far the most likely case of events. And this Order of the Silver Twilight they mentioned could have just been a string of random words that they threw together to send you off somewhere that didn't involve them. Maybe it's a prank, and since then they've not been in touch with you. But I want to reassure you as well, Mr. Eagling, that this just happens in life. Sometimes you make friends and sometimes they just walk away from you and don't want to speak to you again.
Yeah, listen, I didn't come here to get some kind of lectures or life lessons. I just wanted to report that these people, they're gone, all right? So
listen, we'll do our bit, won't we, Detective Moore? We'll look. See if anyone else has reported anything similar.
Absolutely. I mean, we have their names, and if there are any reports that come in, we'll be sure to look into that and see if we can find anything based on this. So thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. I say looking at Detective Flaherty and then looking at Mr. Eagling.
Flaherty is only just not rolling his eyes over his cup of coffee as he sips on it loudly.
Yeah, I look down at my own coffee and thinking that this is shit coffee. What a waste of time coming here.
But listen, how can we reach you in case there's anything? I mean, you know, or in case you happen to find out anything more. You know, if you find any more clues or something like that.
That's right. One of the worst things that happens in this city, Mr. Eagling, is a well-meaning individual such as yourself will come in here, open up a case, and we'll spend half a week chasing our tails, and it'll turn out it was solved an hour after you left.
So, how common was it to have a phone at this time?
It's more likely in the place you live that there's probably a shared phone in the hall. So, yeah, you could certainly have a phone in your house, or just give them your address.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll give you my address. And if you find something, why don't you come by? And I'll come back to you. I start writing it down on a piece of paper. Probably not going to find anything. I should probably go taking this to the press. Or even, maybe my friend Theodosia, she knows something about this Order of the Silver Twilight. She knows a lot of things. I kind of mumble to myself as I write this down.
Flaherty, obviously picking up on some of these murmurings, looks at Lewis and just does now roll his eyes.
I smile to him, and then I look to Mr. Eagling and say, but thank you for bringing this to our attention. It's good that we know about these things, and we have registered this, and we will be getting in touch in case there's anything. Do trust us on that. I say, trying to appear as reassuring as possible. I do want the police to be, you know, seen as friendly, as someone that you can come to, because it sure really wasn't that way in Baltimore. Most of my colleagues were dirty, and yeah, it was a bad scene, and I'm hoping that maybe there can be a new leaf here in Boston. Hasn't started out so great, but perhaps at least this Mr. Eagling, perhaps I can somehow make his visit here not be a complete thing that he regrets afterwards.
I look between the two of you, and I give a bit of a sigh as I regretfully find it hard to decide whether to trust you or not. But I guess at least one of you seem genuine. So I just give a shrug and I hand over that, and I put down the half-drunk coffee on the table. All right. Yeah, well, just let me know, okay? Have a good day now, gentlemen.
You too, Mr. Eagling.
We surely will. You can see yourself out now, can you?
I suck my teeth and give a nod, and then I just go out.
Soon as you leave and the door closes behind you, you hear Flaherty laughing loudly. You don't know if Detective Moore is joining him.
Yeah, thinking to myself, what a bunch of losers. There's not a wonder people don't go to them. I should put up some. I should go to the press instead. I should put in a missing person little note.
So back in the office, the Order of the Silver Twilight. Eddie Flaherty is about 15 years your senior. He has been on this force for, well, longer than most police officers. And he's been something of a, well, you've not been here long enough for him to act as a mentor. But you've already got the impression that he has partnered with rookies and people from out of town. There's a good streak in Eddie Flaherty, largely in the form of his humour. He never lets anything, no matter how grim, get to him, it seems. It just washes right over him, and sometimes that's infectious. He can be a great source of optimism at the scene of a grisly murder, which sometimes you need. At other times, his apparently uncaring attitude can rankle. And in this case, he points at these names. Lois Wilde, I recognise that name. We picked her up. Well, you might not have, Lois. We picked her up about 3 months ago, I think.
That would have been before this disappearance, then. What did you pick her up for? Was it public drunkenness or something like that?
You got it in one. She is quite the drinker, this Lois Wilde. As for Carstairs, I've never had the pleasure, but he's, his family is known as... If he's the Carstairs I'm thinking of, his daddy, Philip, is some dockland magnate. Not exactly friend to the unions, if you know what I mean.
I nod.
But if the two of them are gone missing, I mean seriously gone missing, surely their families would have come to us already.
You would think so, unless they're trying to... I don't know, unless they're embarrassed or wanting to not get it into the news somehow. Could that be the thing, that they feel like it would sully the name somehow?
I suppose. I mean, I think just you questioning that versus you looking for something that perhaps isn't there. I mean, sure. Let's follow that lead, shall we? While we're still finishing these cups of coffee. Let's assume these two went missing, and let's say that the Carstairs family and the Wilde family have reason to conceal the missing nature of their respective children. Maybe they don't think their children are missing. Maybe they think their children are gadding about spending money. Or maybe they're embarrassed by their children and don't want to draw attention to the fact that they've raised a pair of wastrels. Perhaps they're being shaken down by a group and the Italian mob are involved, and they don't want to report their own kiddies are buried somewhere. All of these things could be true, or none of them. I mean, it's, as I say, just as likely that they've just skipped town, head to New York, get a change of scenery, they'll be back within the month.
It certainly is possible.
I mean, if it was me and I had money, I wouldn't be hanging around Boston in this weather. I'd be going down to Florida.
I hear it's great over there.
Wonderful place to take your kids.
Yeah.
But, I mean, things have been pretty slow. So, what's the harm going to be if we poke around a little?
It's more fun than just sitting around here waiting for the next arson case, I say. Kind of to myself, partially.
Well, you never know, do you, Lewis? He stabs your desk with his finger as he stands up. For all we know, the phantom kidnapper of Landon Carstairs and Lois Wilde could be the phantom arsonist of Baltimore, striking again in a way that completely goes against his usual activities.
I can't help but smile at that. It's, of course, I am very serious about finding this arsonist, but even I also know that what I'm doing is perhaps perceived as, well, a little bit obsessed, and I try to have some kind of distance from myself when I can, and this is one of those occasions when I can, because right now I'm not thinking about what I've lost, about my family. I'm trying to be in the moment here and now, and right now it's working. So I laugh with Detective Flaherty, and we'll get started on trying to look into this then, trying to see if these kids are actually missing or not, and see what we can find out.
Sounds like a plan. You start looking through the books, see if anyone's filed anything. I'll take a quick ride down to Cambridge, ask the police down there, our brothers in arms, if any of them have seen or heard or stumbled upon two does in the snow.
I nod. All right.
All right, well, catch up at the end of shift, okay?
Mm-hmm. Good luck.
Flaherty gets up, dusts his trousers off where the tobacco has layered in the creases, and walks on out while cinching his belt, which you didn't notice, but he had gently unbuckled during the conversation. His waistline seems to be ever thickening.
It is a hazard of the occupation, unfortunately. Touching my own waist and noticing that, yes, it is one day it's going to be the same for me if I don't turn things around somehow.
Now, while all of this is going on, or perhaps slightly before, we have the case of Danny Sullivan. Danny is a journalist, as we've already established, for the Boston Globe, and he has been sent out to interview a lady by the name of Jane Clark. Jane Clark lives out in Cambridge, Massachusetts. She had got in touch with the Boston Globe because she said that the police just weren't taking her seriously. And despite your editor's best efforts, Danny, your editor being Horace Joyce, in the end, he was saying, look, there isn't a story here. There ain't no story here, kid. You need to focus on something bigger and better than this. There was nothing bigger or better than this passing across your desk. You have got a column to fill on somewhere around page 14 of the Globe, coming out tomorrow. There's a woman who wants to be interviewed because apparently her husband has gone missing. Now, this Mr. Clark, even from basic investigation, Danny, you've been able to, of course, check the who's who, the directory, the movers and shakers of Boston. There is a James Clark who is a lawyer, has a law office in Boston. But whether that's the same individual, James and Jane, wouldn't that be twee, you wonder, as you drive through the snow toward Cambridge?
Yeah, I suppose I could make a headline out of that. I don't know. It's like editor said, this doesn't really seem like a story. I really want something big, like, I mean, maybe if they were celebrities or something, that would be something, but in this case, well, what, she just some housewife? Do I even know what she does? Is she anyone important?
You do not know. No. Can you make a drive roll, please?
Under my score of 60, I got a 7.
In that case, as a car comes skidding towards you, you are able to spin the wheel rapidly enough to skid yourself, but out of the way of them. They crash into a wall, and to your amazement, as you basically lean out of the window and look back, this is, after all, a time before mirrors, really. We're on cars, that is. You see them pull backwards and then start rolling forward slowly again. This is not the first time you have been in a near collision during this weather. It's difficult to see more than about 10 meters ahead of you on the road in this thick snow.
Holy hell, I mean, I honked my horn. I was a little concerned for a moment, but seeing them just clearly drive off, hell, they just came out of nowhere. Disrespectful. People in this city don't know how to drive, I tell you that.
You eventually reach Newton Circle, the part of Cambridge that the Clarks are said to live at. You see the address 1312 Newton Circle. That's where Mrs. Clark said that she would be. There is a car parked outside in their drive. You can park on the road and climb out.
Well, I park my car as best I can. Granted, it's not the fanciest car by a long shot, but it gets me from point A to B, and I know how to drive it. I take out my bag containing my, notebook, pencil. I'm really looking for an opportunity to use my new camera. A vest pocket Kodak, brand new. These cameras are amazing. You can actually take them along in a bag. It's incredible. No need for a flash bulb or to carry and set them up. But at the same time, am I really going to get a photo opportunity with this lady? I suppose maybe a little mournful wife look. I'll take my camera just in case. Put that all in my bag, get my nice cap on. Got a nice brown coat as well, a bit tatty, but it is cold. And I suppose I'll make my way to the address. I'm not really excited about this. I'm expecting this to be some sort of... Poor man probably just got drunk and fell in the river or something. I mean, that's awful, but it's hardly news. It happens all the time. Or maybe he's just skipped town, gone south or something. Whatever. I need something.
And so you ring the bell. The door opens almost immediately, like she was just waiting for you to arrive. A woman who still bears the signs of tears on her face. Her skin is blotchy, her eyes are slightly swollen. She holds a handkerchief clutched tightly in one hand. The other grips the side of the door. You must be from Boston Globe?
Yes, ma'am.
Come in, please, come in.
Oh, sure, ma'am. Thank you.
No, wipe if you could take your shoes off and put them there, please. I don't want snow being tramped in there. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm being so rude.
Nah, that's fine. Shoes off, and I'll take my hat off too, and I take off my black cap, give it a bit of a dust, put it in my coat pocket. Yeah, I'm Danny Sullivan for Boston Globe. You had a story. Oh.
Yeah, let me take you through to the parlor, please. Would you like coffee, tea?
Oh, ma'am, I would love a cup of coffee. Thank you.
I'll get the housekeeper to make one.
I give an awkward nod. Again, I'm not actually the most persuasive or charming guy. I don't look bad, but I find it difficult to talk to people sometimes. I talk way too quick. But this doesn't seem so bad, so I'll make myself at home if I can. Try not to put my feet up on the table. Get my pencil out and see if there's any... and enjoy that coffee.
Indeed, it is a warm house, nicely furnished as well. They clearly have some money. It's not the largest of buildings, but everywhere in Cambridge is pretty damn expensive. And the insulation shows. The housekeeper brings a tray with coffee in. Thank you, Charisse. Well, I'm so glad you took my call seriously. I really worried that you wouldn't. I called the police first, of course, but they said there was nothing they could do for the time being.
Well, you know how it is. The cops, they're busy for hard-working folk, not rich folk, eh?
I know. I'm not trying to say anything different. Is everything I say going to be written down by you?
No, gosh, no. You get to see everything. Look, I'll start writing here on this little piece of paper here, and I'll just take quotes.
You'll have to excuse me, Mr. Sullivan. I'm probably not going to touch any of my coffee.
So let's see. So your husband?
That's right, James Clark.
Okay, James.
He's 38 years old. He's about your height, medium build. He's got brown hair. It's kept short. Has been ever since he was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I've been asking around because he's gone missing. He hasn't come home. I asked an omnibus driver because Mr. Clark James would often ride the bus into the city to work because that's where his law offices are. I'm sorry, I'm gabbling. I'm all over the place. But an omnibus driver saw him heading in about 2:30 in the morning. This was 2 nights ago. And. This is unusual for him, why would he be catching a bus that late? And of course, but by this point, I only found that out earlier today. I'd been calling around people yesterday. Has anyone seen him? At first, I thought, did he sleep at the office? And then I found out he didn't. And he's even missed cases. He's missed trial appointments, which is very unlike him. Obviously, my mind went to, is he having an affair? Has he ran off with someone? But that isn't. My husband is a good man. I know I'm sure you hear this all the time, Mr. Sullivan. We don't have any children, but he's always been steadfast, loyal to me. We never stepped out on each other. And anyway, he was on this bus heading into Boston, or in the direction of Boston, from our place about 2:30 in the morning. The driver swears to it. I even showed a photo.
Oh, you got a photo? That could be helpful.
Yes. She pulls out a photo. It's a crisp black and white portrait. Actually, him in his military uniform. He was in the army, clearly, before he decided to become a practicing lawyer. Mr. Clark, that is James, he's a very public-spirited man. He does a lot for the community. He's a member of all kinds of community support organizations. He's a Mason. He's a member of the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight. He's friends with the Rotary Club. He's a good man.
I nod to myself. I'm taking down the details of this story shorthand. Yada yada Mason, yada yada lawyer, last scene, yada yada. Pause for a moment at some of those names and say, Order of the Silver Twilight. Not heard that one.
No, it's new, I think. I think it's an old group, but they, I think they're new to Boston.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think they set up in the last year or so. James was invited to join about 3 weeks ago, maybe.
3 weeks ago. Okay.
By
And you've sorry to interrupt, Miss Clark. You've asked around, haven't you? You've
Mrs.
gone to...
Clark.
Oh, sorry.
Please.
Mrs. Clark, my apologies. You've gone round, you've asked these people, you've asked around the office, you've asked these, the Masons, they have an address, don't they? Just to make sure that he has an eye, I don't know.
Well, I do know where the Freemason Lodge is, yes, Mr. Sullivan. And I went to this, I found the address of this, the Silver Twilight Lodge as well.
Oh, yeah?
It was in, James's books, and that's where I was at before I called the Globe, because I went there, and I'm guessing they mostly meet up in the evening, perhaps because there weren't many people there, and Mr. Sullivan, I was given short shrift by these people. They denied knowing my husband. I showed them the photo, the one I showed the omnibus driver. It's on the same route. I mean, as in the bus route from here to Boston. It passes by through Cambridge, where this lodge is. And anyway, I showed the photo of my husband. I said he's a member. I know he's a member because he was so excited to join another community group of like-minded men. They just and she leans forward. They pretty much told me to go take a hike, Mr. Sullivan.
Huh. Well, that is a little unusual.
I know what these groups can be like around women. I know they're secret societies for men, especially powerful men in the city. So I know that they don't want questions asked. But all I want to know is where my husband is. And if he was headed there on that night, I don't know, because I was asleep when he got up and left. I think I'm gonna faint.
Well, I have to admit, that's all a little unusual. Secret societies, you don't get too many of them these days. Well, not in Boston anyway, but okay. Well, real ones. The secret part, everyone knows who a Mason is. Okay, it is a little strange, though, that they... You said your husband was excited to join them. He wasn't, forgive me for saying this, he wasn't legally representing them in any way. This isn't something to do with a case, maybe. Again, just, no.
If he is, he wouldn't have shared that with me, I'm sure. He doesn't bring work home with him.
I lean back in my chair thinking this over. This has suddenly become slightly more interesting. It's one thing for a random guy just to go missing, but a guy who's part of a secret society going missing? A lawyer? Is there something interesting here? Some sort of mob bust or something rich people often other rich people for some big grand conspiracy? I don't know, but it's more interesting than just someone's husband goes missing. So I'm thinking that to myself, although of course I'm writing this all down nice and professionally. Okay, well, I suppose at this point there's not much more I can do, Mrs. Clark, you understand. The Boston Globe, we'll write this up, we'll put it, if you're okay with it, we'll put his picture up in the paper.
Please, anything you can do. My greatest fear, Mr. Sullivan, is... there's all kinds of strange mass murderers around these days. You read about them in the papers all the time. That man with the axe who was cutting through screen doors. Those torso murderers. I wonder if he got picked up by one of these people, one of these sadists, and they might be captured somewhere and just be unable to escape. And I think people just need to know that he's missing so that they can look out for him. And maybe someone will go to your paper and say that yes, they saw him head down this street or walk off with that person, and maybe someone will identify. I don't know. I genuinely don't know, but I am worried sick. I'm terrified, Mr. Sullivan.
I definitely understand, but I'm sure that you're making a big deal over nothing. People go missing all the time, and
she
again, he's
stops shaking at that point, her eyes wide. I'm sorry. You think I'm worrying over nothing?
No, I didn't quite mean it like that. I just meant that,
when I contacted the Boston Globe, it wasn't so that I could be told that this is a nothing story. My husband is missing, Mr. Sullivan.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play Shadows of Yog-Sothoth for Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. Joining us as our keeper is none other than our dear friend Matthew Dawkins. The music is provided by Heuschober, featuring tracks from their Lovecraftian compilation albums. Check out their website at cryoChamber.bandcamp.com or their YouTube channel for some moody dark ambient for your gaming table. We would like to give massive thanks to our champions of the Red Moon, Martin Heuschober, Simon Cooper, David, Julia, Camilla, Bob Lange, Cameron, Antxon, and Graham Barey for their generous support. We would of course also like to thank all of our other patrons. Without your support, the show would not be possible. If you want early access to our content and to hear raw versions of our recordings right after we've done them, or get your name announced as a champion of the Red Moon, do check out our higher level tiers on Patreon. It's a great way to get more Red Moon roleplaying in your life, and to help us keep the show going. Thank you again for listening, and remember, past, present, future are all one in Yog-Sothoth.